Hello and welcome to another episode of the ewansucks Drawing Podcast. This week, no drawing. Fuck you, I do what I want. I do what I fucking want. I thought, as, a thing, something to do, the content gets a little bit, oh, I'll draw a thing this week, oh, this week I'll draw another thing, oh, this week I'll draw... It might be nice to look at something from the past and look... fuck the intro. So this is The Intergalactic Adventures of ZAKK Ridley. It's a graphic novel I did all the artwork for in 2013/2014. Now, so it's 2020 now, so this was 7 years ago. Let's say 7 years ago. 7 years ago. That I actually did the artwork. It probably was 7 or more years ago. What I thought I'd do is look through it and sort of see where I went right and where I went wrong, and what I've learned since then, because I've learned a lot since doing this. Frankly, I look through this and it's kind of embarrassing. It's old, the artwork's kind of shitty, but that said, there are still points where I look at them and I go, okay, that was quite cool, I liked that, and there's points where I can see doing it I learned and then carried that on. Points I realised I learned after the fact that I shouldn't be doing this, or I should work on that. So yeah, I'll go through pretty much the whole thing. I know I've shown it off a little bit before, but this will be a little bit more in-depth. Yeah, because that'll be fun. It was printed by Marcosia, published by Marcosia Publishing. They do like independent comics in the UK. Written by Ian Sharman and Steve Rogers, John Rogers, Pete Rogers. So this was like a promotional. It was the first chapter where they got it printed up as like a promotional first issue thing to sell at cons before the artwork was done for the whole thing, which is quite a neat little thingy thing. I've got a few of those. I might, sign them, sell them. What is quite cool is because that's my signature printed on the thing of the painting I did. The actual painting for that is like the size of his face, maybe about the size of his head. Look, it's Ewan McLaughlin. That's me. That's neat. So, to start with, the cover. I was given a brief of, do something with all the characters, and I quite liked the idea of white with the... And, as a whole, it's not bad, but then you look into it a bit more and some of the details are a bit off, and, the anatomy's not great. But you can see I had an idea. I was, early 20s, 23, 24, 23 probably. So, I sort of had a handle on it. I hadn't been doing my paintings for very long. And yeah, this was like my first comic book thing. I'd only done sort of a handful of pages that I put in my portfolio along with some paintings. And then this happened. Yeah, there's a few good points on the cover. But what I'll do for ease now, and what is usually best, is that these books always look better without a dust jacket on. It's coming up a bit there. So let's right into it. I did a few of these chapter divider artworks. 2014. Okay, so yeah, 2013, 2014. I did the text as well. That was hand-drawn, hand-painted text they used for the thing. Some words, first issue, and we open a space scene, very few stars. I wanted to hand paint all the stars. I realised far later on, if I use a spray can and lightly spray, I get a much nicer look of stars. But I wanted to hand paint everything, so like all the sound effects, wherever they are, they're hand painted. Because I wanted to be. But I realised here, not enough going on. So everything's kind of, not as great as it could be. I'm not going to go deep on every page, but a space station. Well, yeah. So some of them, you know, as a spread, often I think I did that quite well. As a spread, it looks quite nice, but then you get into the details and you see like the perspective on his feet is way off, the proportions here, the facial details, just like the size of his head to his face. And I really, he was supposed to have scruffy hair, so I just like did this, and then that adapted and adapted and adapted till later on he got like this jagged line of hair that he sort of stuck with. But what we will notice is little details. I love this throughout the entire book and in my more recent work. Little details in the background I really like, little aliens and graffiti and stuff. Some of the lighting's all good, quite good. You know, you can see influences here and there. One thing that will come up again and again and again is contrast, especially with regards to work being made from painting to print. Like in the details of his face, I should have used a lighter blue to contrast with the details in his face. But that's like you live and learn, isn't it? Cool lighting, a floating briefcase, because why not? Again, details in the background are pretty cool. I like all that stuff. You know, again, early, but not great, not terrible. Again, one thing I was happy with was my use of colour. So this is all happening in one space station. It's all like one sort of colour, you know, pages to pages. I've carried or tried to carry that on through my more recent work also. I quite like some of the, you know, the angles and stuff. It's quite a nice page. This was painted in blue, separated from the darkness here, which is quite cool. That's quite a nice little panel. More details, aliens pushing other aliens on platforms and things. Cool. This kind of unnecessary, but I wanted to play with panel layouts a bit rather than just have the same stuff happen all over and over and over. And again, even back then, you know, mid-shot close-up, mid-shot close-up, I was doing okay, but it's more in some of the details that I failed. So he was angry, so that was like more painted, and then that was stern, so I took more time rendering a little bit at least to some degree. Again, the space scenes will all be sort of kind of wishy-washy, not enough contrast. Again, yeah, not bad. I think like in I remember the Wachowskis said when they made The Matrix, it was like every idea they'd ever had they put into one film, and I think I did that here. Every idea I'd had, but all my ideas came from other places. So there's like 2000 AD, Simon Bisley, Judge Dredd, everything I thought I knew about sci-fi, it's all gone in here. Some of it good, some of it less so. You can see the Judge Dredd influence on the shoulder pad here, maybe on the helmet's a bit of the police. You know, I fit in quite a lot of detail and stuff into this. The whole process took just under 6 months to do the whole 80-something pages. This was quite cool. They're in like a warp space sort of area, so I tried to make it warp spacey. I don't know. That's quite neat. And that's one thing I was happy with, was like the little lighting effects here and there, sort of here and there, the pinks and stuff. And again, it's always the little details I like. They're my favourites. And you know, overall, it works. Like, it's okay as a comic. The artwork is functional, but it's again in the details. The hands here kind of stink. Proportions and sort of the way I use lines, like I'd make this more angular, and if I was doing it now, you know, if I'm able at any point to, if I have the funds that I don't have to worry about money, I can just work on something. It would be really cool to if I could just sit down and remake this book like now, because I really like some of the imagery. I'd really like to go back and try that. Change in scene, you know, colour themes over the whole thing, but then this is in the police station, so it's a very sort of like clean sanitary look to it, as opposed to ZAKK's ship, which is sort of dirty and old metal and stuff. Asteroids, again, not really enough contrast. If the black was deeper and I lightened up the asteroids a bit, that might look a tad better. The consistency or lack thereof in characters' faces was always, that's quite cool. Nice little lighting effect on the back of the ship there. That was always one of my fears of getting into doing comic books, was I knew I'd have difficulty keeping faces looking the same panel to panel. I think with my sort of like slightly off-kilter painting style, it kind of works, especially in like Gun Viking, for instance. With Gun Viking, obviously, it's purposely inconsistent, but I think it sort of works because it's a slightly more artistic comic rather than just a comic book. You know, that's an excuse. She was cut out and stuck on to the background that I painted separately just for fun because I thought it might look kind of neat. Background sort of okay. Again, little details, lizards and things. I wanted to put little weird things in. This is obviously a nod, this table, to Star Wars. And I liked doing, like, you know, little painted graffiti in the background, just a square with spray paint, just so, you know, because there's no need to fill in all these details in every panel. There's no need for that if you're doing a comic book. So it's nice to have just little funny little squares, and it's, you know, the colour matches, so it's not like a green square behind him. You know, there's a reason for it being what it is. Silly little goblin man. Don't know. Again, outlines. The contrast. I should have put more effort into that. The whole thing was painted very quickly. Again, some of it good, some of it not so. Spray paints, I quite like those. Again, another vast change in sort of style and scenery. I was quite happy with that. The floating chair was quite a nice touch from me. And a nice sort of like sequence of panels with this one behind these three. Very extreme close-up. Again, you can see sort of like early Gun Viking style of painting in there, which is quite cool. Not terrible, but I look back and I'm just like, I could do it so much better now. And we will look at some more recent ZAKK Ridley artwork also. So, you know, hang on to your hats for that. Look, he's on a jetpack and he has a jetpack and he's carrying a big plug. Space switches, like sandwiches, but in space. A kitchen. A three-titted alien girl posted up there. I think it's mostly in just like the faces and bodies, because it's just like, I could do better. The anatomy's not great, but you know, look, they're fixing up the ship. It's all beaten up and their cones, details. Again, funny little. I like little paintings like these. These are my funnest ones to do. The ones I like the most. That's the flight of the navigator ship in the background there. See, as I said, all my sci-fi knowledge is in here somewhere. I quite like this panel. Again, it was a bit more experimental with the paint, so I did a turquoise back and then painted on top of that, leaving a lot of the turquoise showing through. Just sort of blend it together because it was a crowd scene sort of thing, so I wanted to blend it in with one colour. I don't know. Again, there's certain things I thought I was trying to do with the anatomy and painting, but like, I don't know. Again, trying to keep the colour consistent. Contrast. That's going to be the main thing throughout the entire thing. That arm stinks. His head's whatever. Contrast, because he blends in with the ship too much. Little two-headed dog, a spaceman. The little details, see, it's the little details that I liked. I liked this power tool thing here. Yeah, not terrible, not great. Again, I liked having not using the whole page sometimes, because it's, you know, a lot of people say, well, you've got this space, so use it, fill it up, put all this stuff in. But at the same time, fuck it, have just a few panels, have white space on the page sometimes. Why not? I quite liked. I think I was getting better at painting even here. Like I quite like some of the painting I'm doing here. And that's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2, chapter divider. I quite liked that one. That's the assassin guy who will crop up at some point. Again, anatomy, contrast, do it better, do it better, do it better. But again, you know, it's not all terrible. Again, playing with the panels, turn them on their side. I could do the space, the stars. I should have been using spray paint, but I wanted it to be hand paint. And that's also like, I think I felt like spray paint would be taking a shortcut, and I didn't necessarily want to do that. But now I'm very much of the mindset, take fucking shortcuts, take all the shortcuts you can. Just get the shit done. Don't worry about perfectionism or whatever. There's a TIE fighter in his little wagon that he's pulling with his gas mask on. Again, throw another little reference in. Jetpack man in silhouette. I like these little lines I did in the background and stuff, just to imply boxes and things. This is like earlier, so it's slightly faded. Not black and white like a full like flashback, but something similar. I don't know, whatever. Some of the facial expressions are quite cool. You know, you can see where, yeah, his hair has just been simplified. And again, I guess that's a shortcut, so that's something I had going for me. I really like this panel, this like space city. It was mostly just these lines where it's literally just like a loop line. Buildings made out of those lines basically, but made in 3 dimensions. Kang and or Kodos, spaceman again. Guy in a scooter, I don't know. But yeah, again, these little details, little crowd scenes, that was quite cool. I was pretty happy with that. Little advertisements. And again, this suffers from the lack of contrast as well, where the people... I did that a lot in here, you'll see. I made, like if there's a crowd scene with loads of people in it, I make the people purple, like as you can see here. Just so there's not too much colour, because again, colour page to page is very important to me in how I make comic books. So I didn't want there to be too much colour and then you lose the main characters. So I wanted it to be very obvious where they were in the scene. So doing that here, I lost a lot of detail through lack of contrast. But again, you know, some interesting layouts, different, you know, angle, lens focus, depth focus, whatever. That was my girlfriend at the time. I painted her into my comic book. She didn't seem terribly bothered by it. It's all just, you know, it's learning. That's all it is. It's learning. Trying to make like a sexy woman there I don't know if it worked or not. And again, she's got like I think this is a hotel room or something, so it's very plain. Floating fishbowl, a unicorn painting on the wall there. Yeah, I quite like that. That's quite a nice little thing. So a very sort of plain, sterile hotel room, so I left it white completely, didn't paint anything on there. That's quite neat. But again, the facial expressions, I wanted them to be exaggerated, but they're too sort of like, they just look bad. And I mean, to you guys, you might look at it and think, no, that looks quite good actually. But I guess this is me looking at my old artwork, so I'm not necessarily seeing it in the most positive light. Anatomy is terrible here, the angles and whatnot. Fishman though, that's quite cool. Crowd scenes, purple. And again, it irritates me that I lost some of the detail, because like that's just a big worm man. That guy's got a little head. There's funny details I like to put in, and again, I like this small painting. Bushes in the buildings, and I like the buildings themselves. This is going to the shuttle here where they're headed. Sort of, you know, exclamation lines, and like that's a neat little. I like that. But it's the contrast is not as it ought to be. I like a chase scene where they're being chased by the police. Not terrible, but yeah, again, it's good enough, and I think that's why I was given this project to work with, because my artwork at the time was good enough. It wasn't outstanding necessarily. It wasn't shit by any means, but it was good enough. It's good artwork, hand painted. That's kind of impressive, I guess. Do a comic. Again, some good bits, some bad bits. Because I had like poses down, cool, but the anatomy was off, the angles and stuff were off. That's kind of neat. That's taken directly from Simon Bisley running away there. Yeah, some good bits, but that's going to be the whole way through. Some good bits, some bad bits, but do. Quite like this as a whole scene. Again, the details in like the post, the clock. See the clock? It's like a futuristic clock where instead of hands from the middle, it's got two dots that move around the outside to depict the time. The bin's got a smiley face on it. People around. He's running into the thing. They're going through a packed train. They're at the end, so it's no go. The police are on the train too. Oh no. Again, contrast. See, that's something I can do now that I know what I'm doing. Is I'd have far better contrast in like the people. You know, he's sad because he didn't get off the train in time, and then they go whoosh back into the warp drive thing. The lighting, not bad. Flashback, black and white, that makes sense. That hand is awful. His face isn't great. I didn't paint feet in here because I tried a few times and I couldn't make them look good. So I just didn't give him feet. That's a detail which you know now. Yeah, things aren't necessarily as clear as they could be. But, you know. And this was obviously, I'd seen those black and white Glenn Fabry Slane paintings and thought, ooh, I'll do that too. Inconsistent, the anatomy's not great. Whatever. It looks like a big purple turquoise anus. Ooh, that should be brighter. That's quite cool, a nice little insert panel with the spray paint and stuff. And that's one thing I was set on then, and I'm very much similar now. Sorry, I need a sip of a drink. Is that I was very much not trying to hide that I was using paint. So I was happy to have brush strokes and spray paint splats and stuff. So ZAKK was in a disguise before, obviously, in this bit here. See, they're disguised for some reason. And now he's changing back into his other clothes, which I put in there. I actually did that, put the details in. It's the contrast, man. It's the fucking contrast. So here's the assassin in his ship. I wanted him to have like cybernetic eyes, but I don't think I did them very well, so they just look like weird, badly drawn pupils. You know, cigarette butts in an ashtray, the details, the little talky face details, quite neat. Little photo there, the hologram face of the police chief. There's some good stuff in here, actually. I think I'm actually liking this more and more the more I look at it. But the artwork's still shit. I could still do fucking better. Big space station. Again, I think the way I did the stars really, really detracts from the space scenes because they don't feel like they're in the distance or anything. Whereas if I use the spray paint, like you may have seen on some paintings I did recently, it'd look much better. Laughing Goblin, big like billboard thing, bunch of shit. Oh, excuse me. I quite like this. Like it's all one big scene, but then the individual panels of the ship flying through the scene, or whatever. This was quite a fun bit. Again, change the colour scheme. They're in a space station that's orange, so it's lots of orange in this scene here. The market was like a busy market scene. I filled with little weird details. Water-filled glass bowls with creatures in. And that's exactly what they are. Little posters and things are fun to paint. Weird aliens and things, but I think I should have painted it bigger because I paint quite small, so I didn't get that much detail into it. I should have painted it bigger, made it grander, more shit in there. That would have been a lot better. And again, the fucking contrast. Because if these background bits were darker and the foreground was a bit lighter and the people were stood out a bit more, that would be a really strong scene. That'd be a fun one just to repaint that scene, actually, if nothing else. I probably won't, though, because, you know, why bother? Yeah, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. She's walking off on her own. She's mad for some reason. Again, details, man, details. Look at all the flyers on the wall, the trash. Cool. She goes down here, laughing goblin posters. It's a dead end. It says dead end on the wall. It's an alleyway with boxes and trash and stuff. This assassin guy shows up. Oh, he's mad. He points a gun at her. Let's highlight his eyes with a bit of spray paint. Why not? I quite like that as a spread. Blam! Oh no, what happened? ZAKK shot him in the back. But again, the contrast is way off, so you can't necessarily tell exactly what's happening. I mean, you can if you look at it. You go, oh, okay, his legs, and he's got like cowboy boots. I see. His gun, cool. But you should be able to just look at it and see straight away. That's a successful comic book page or piece of artwork in general, is you look at it and you go, oh, I see what's happening. Cool. You shouldn't have to look at it and fucking decipher it like it's a puzzle. You should just be able to look at it, especially in comic books. Because you only look at this panel for a few seconds, you read it and go, I see what happened, on to the next one. You shouldn't have to look at it for ages to fucking see what's going on. I mean, I like the contrast of the orange and the purple, and then the colour carrying on. I made them black and white there, because, you know, it seemed to fit the story or whatever. Again, the little paintings. They're the best ones, man. Yeah, little details in the background. No air in space, it says on his shirt. He's smoking a cigarette. The ship could be designed a lot better as well. But, you know, I have no background in fucking science fiction or, you know, machine design or designing spaceships or anything. So I did sort of what I thought would work. But yeah, like a hangar door, a smaller door within the door, little, you know, I had some okay ideas. There's a little Lego man on his desk. He's in the dark. Again, could fix the contrast up a bit. You kind of need to struggle to see what's going on. I was really happy with that one. Nice double page spread overlooking the city. The blimp, it says blimp. I was quite proud of in this one where it's like it's underlit, so you can see the lighting or like pollution coming from within the city, and so it's like underlit on the blimp there. Again, if I just put spray paint around the edge instead of the dots for the stars. I use spray paint for like the underglow here slightly, but fucking dummy dum. But yeah, it was fun carrying on this sort of style. I used an actual copper paint, like a metallic paint, for most of this, and I highlighted it with the white, so it like toned down the metallicity a bit. And these are some of my favourite pages. Again, the crowd scene, they were meant to be in disguise, so they were sort of meant to blend in, so I had that all, you know, they're all in like hoods and rags and stuff, a paper bag on his head. Flying lizard, why not? Again, similar things here. Background details quite cool. They were fun to do. Some interesting lighting, some interesting cropping. All the sound effects for the cars painted in. I like that. Taxi. The lights and stuff. Yes, some okay stuff. One of my favourite panels. I have shown this one off before because I was quite proud of myself with my not having all like perfect, you know, perspective and straight lines on the buildings. They're all just sort of there, but I really like this panel as it goes, and this sort of page as a whole, I guess. They're heading towards this building, stuff going on. I really like ZAKK's coat because it's just like a big triangle there. You can kind of see it there, big cone there, and there as he's walking away. They're in this place. Smaller details are the best details, again, as always. People milling about their business. Oh, he's on like a floating chair going, wee. That's quite funny. This guy. She was supposed to be like super hot in this dress, and The arm stinks. It's not, again, not terrible. You get the idea, but it's not great. Playing with the layout again by having all this white space is kind of cool, I guess. Her in the elevator, that's literally just the elevator. Thing. He's been shot. Oh no, that was cool. I quite like that from behind. I was pretty happy with that. Oh no, there's things happening. I quite like that painting as a painting. That's Dan. It stands for something Android something. That's ZAKK's little pal he hangs around with. That was quite cool. That's the planet they were just on, the city planet. This one, but like from a distance. And it's got like a face on it. See? Quite like that I did there. Satellites, whatever. Police on their ship, being policemen. This guy. Some okay sort of like background stuff, and these guys cool, whatever. Again, the anatomy's really off. The head stinks. The change in his face, that could be 3-4 different people. Whatever. That's quite a nice little thing. Whatever. It's one of my favourite pages in the whole book, primarily because of this panel, I think. That kind of stinks, but as a whole, and you see the fish tank in the background. There's like one-eyed alien fish and starfish there. It's kind of funny. And then here I just put fish because it's funny. Stuff going on, different ways of painting things. Crash, the windows blow open. There's the Mary Jane, that's ZAKK's ship out there. You know, dust clouds pouring in. The fish tank blew up, so the fish are on the floor. The details lost. Again, contrast. I really like this page. These guys get shot. That hand's quite cool. He's angry. Yeah, that's quite well done. This is whatever. Keep the dust in, some consistency in the colours and the style. This was a nice, like, pew. Again, I could do it better now, but whatever. I quite like his belt buckle. Back to this lady from before. Again, contrast. Could do better. Whatever. Just stuff. You can see my painting's getting a little bit better here and there. This is quite a nice little. It's the funny little panels. That's, as I've said, don't try when you put in loads of effort and it comes out sort of meh. It feels worse because you put in all the effort to make this big grand painting and it looks meh. And then you make just a silly little throwaway panel like this, but it actually looks really good. The painting's not bad. The anatomy doesn't really matter, but it happens to be kind of good. Their faces are funny and cute. So that's what I want to try to do as I move forward in comic books, is worry less about big, grand, really focusing on everything. Just make silly little panels, and you know, they're more interesting to look at, which is sort of the point. Again, that was cut out and pasted on the sprayed background just because he lost his bottom lip. I don't know how. This is quite a cool panel, or page rather. So it was all one big panel with these insert panels. See the buildings, the city all merges into itself because it's this way up, and then this panel's this way up, and then this panel's this way up, and then this panel's this way up, with a big floating bear over the city. I was pretty proud of that. It's not painted too badly. It's quite neat. Muppet Dan. That was fun to throw in there. And again, his hair was another shape, but it ended up becoming this, whatever that is. Not bad. Contrast, anatomy, whatever. This is quite cool. Whoosh, they zoom past them because they stop in midair, and then he shoots them. That's quite a neat little panel there. I quite like the explosions I did, and it was fun painting in all the sound effects by hand. I quite like that. And then they fly away from that planet. That's quite a nice panel. And there you go. I did the spray. When did I do that before? I don't know if I did. Yeah. Shit. So yeah, you can see where I'm using spray paint to do the stars. Apparently I decided against painting them all by hand at some point. So you can see the difference. Space there, like whatever, and then space there. That looks so much better. I should have just fucking used that all the way through. But you know, you learn, don't you? You bloody learn, or you hope you learn. So they're flying away, whoosh, stretching the ship a bit. This is right at the end. Whatever. The faces stink, kind of contrast lighting, work on it, but not bad. That was quite cool. That was pretty fun. This was again actually cut and pasted onto the thing just to make it look a bit different. This was painted like a broken glass sort of thing as they shatter into the warp thing. That was quite cool. Shoom. Contrast again. I don't know, whatever. And that's the end. And then that was just like a little funny thing I threw in there for fun, just one drawing I did. And this was my very own little mini strip, The Further Adventures of ZAKK Ridley. Where it's just supposed to be like a nonsensical little thing. So he's like, oh, and he's like, yeah, got it, and then there's wah, and they're like, oh shit, what's that? And he's like, pow, 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 and he shoots it, blort, and its eye pops out, and they're like, yeah, got that, but there's eyes all around them. Oh no! And this was done one page at a time, you know, in between each chapter that I painted them. There's lots of eyeball creature things. Oh no! Run away to the big smiling sun. But he's like, wait, what? Oh no, the big smiling sun's evil. I fell into its mouth. No, I fell into the light and thwomp into this thing. And I came out and he turned into a rabbit. What the fuck? And then he's like, what? There's red things, eyes. No, oh, it's a big monster. What the fuck? Yeah, 2013. There you go. So yeah, no sense to it whatsoever. It was just a bit of fun. A bit of dumb fun. Just a little funny little fun. Bit of comic book fun. I don't know, and that was ZAKK Ridley. I think I've got a few minutes left of memory on my literally a few minutes. Shit. All right, let's get this quick. This is a few pages from the second ZAKK Ridley book. So already you can see the huge like difference in contrast. It was a lot better. I know about, you know, adjusting it on the computer for print now, so that's going to be better. The painting's better, the detail's better, the anatomy's better. Again, I've still got the little details in there, which I'm really happy with. Yeah, again, anatomy, contrast, it's all better. Cool. And then this is sort of like, I just got to finish off that and I'll have another page done. I fully intend to have it finished someday, the second book, but I can't afford to spend all that time doing it, so we'll have to see how that works out. Little details, that's quite a cool like blur effect in the background. Little details, nicely nice. I also did, this was like a prequel, like a 6-page prequel to the first book I've just gone all the way through, which I know I have shown off before, but again, the most recent ZAKK Ridley paintings I've done. And again, you can see the progress that I've made. Again, in contrast, a little bit crazy wild stuff going on. Crowd scene, they're on a street, hailing a taxi. Contrast is a bit better, the detail, the anatomy, playing with lighting as they're in a cab here. Again, not perfect, but it's pretty decent. Keeping a consistent colour theme throughout the whole thing. Giant steps he's climbing up because it's an alien planet. Makes sense. More fun with the anatomy, not keeping it too rigid. This hose that comes here to this guy for some reason. His face is in his shirt and his dick's out, like his nose. Fishman, dog man. I quite like the taxi as well, a little orb that says taxi above it. Smiley face. They're in this place, and again the stairs are big, so the whole thing's big. Reception desk is huge. That's her there and her there. That's quite a neat little thing. Details like kids' drawings, all the people around, little paintings. That's quite cool. that's quite cool. Again, a bit more fun with the facial expressions stuff. Quite a nice little panel, stairs, things going on. Set the scene, cool. This was a nice little 3-panel as Zack falls asleep. Who's that guy? This was quite cool. Again, curvature there, guy there, things. Nice. I like the painting on these guys. Yeah, just, you know, you can see the progress literally on the page. Hailing a taxi again, see taxi. The backgrounds, I quite like the background in that one as well. The buildings sort of like all leaning, lights and shit. That was done for this like compendium. I think I was told it would be black and white, but I either forgot or I wasn't told. So it was printed black and white with the text and everything, which is a shame because you can see you lose loads of the detail. So I think if I kept in mind, if I knew it was black and white and kept that in mind as I was painting it, I would have really made it. I'd probably painted it black and white to really up the contrast to make the details stand out, but I didn't. So it ended up like that. But that's, you know, ZAKK Ridley. I've got the script for the second book, for the first chapter at least. So, you know, like you've seen, I've got a few pages of that done. I'll do the rest at some point. But there's also Gun Viking. There's also rent to pay, you know, commissions. So maybe one day I'll actually get that done. Now go away.